Okay, all my wonderful students. So in reflection to how class went today, I wanted to send you this video to kind of review what you should be doing. Remember, the goal is that you should find a thing to help with your research, whether it's a website, a book, an encyclopedia article, whatever it is. And I want you to evaluate if this is actually a good thing to use. I'm only asking that you do this with one source, just so I can see that you understand. Now this activity is 5% of your grade. So this is one of the opportunities where you can get the entire 100% if you follow the directions. So in order to help you get a good grade, I'm going to walk through what I expect you to do so you have clear expectations. One of the things we talked about was the fact that over the weekend you should have found a source that talked about your part of the project and that I wanted you to read it. In class, if you didn't read it and didn't have a source, you probably realized it was really hard to move forward. So we're going to go through this. So your first step is really read the source that you pick and first make sure it fits your part of the presentation. There's no point in doing this worksheet if this source does not answer your topic. So I want you to start by entering in your information on the top of the page. You know, Blackboard is special. So make sure you get your name, your ID number, and please put our section, which is 001. Second thing, I want you to come up here. There's this blank. Go ahead and select it. And then tell me what type of source you're working with. So if you have a book, I would just write a book. If I have, let's say instead of a book, I chose to use a website, that's what I have. Okay, so what type of source, what category of source are you using? I don't need the name of the book. I don't need the name of the website, the author, none of that at this point. So the next piece, come and summarize what was in the source that you chose. So if I have a book, I'm going to tell you all about the information that's in the chapter that I'm using. So I would go page by page and make brief notes, especially on the things that I'm going to use. If I have a website, even if you're only using a part of the website, go ahead and tell me what's on the entire website. So this description should be a paragraph. There's a lot of information. You can use this area. The smartest way to do it is go ahead and make notes that you're going to be able to copy over to your slides. So feel free to use bullets, to write, as much as you want, whatever's comfortable. So this is really to help you. So go ahead and do a summary. Then we get into the crab analysis of whatever you're working with. So we're going to say we're working with a website. Okay, so the first point is that you come and you talk about the relevance of this website. Meaning, is this website actually giving you the information you need? So first you're going to explain, and there's questions up here to help you. Explain why this website is useful for answering your research question. When I'm saying research question, tell me my part of the presentation is on how cars have changed over the years. This website shows me how cars looked like in the 1910s versus what they looked like now. Then talk about what information are you going to use. So I say specifically, I'm going to, use the pictures on the website and the years that they said. And you might want to talk about, are you going to use, the interview? If you're reading a website that has an interview, are you using part of the interview? And then lastly, tell me how you're going to use it. Are you going to use it to entertain us? Are you going to use it to inform us about an option that we can choose? Okay, so that's relevance. Then you get into currency. So the first thing, go ahead and answer, when was this source published? If you are using a website, this can be a little challenging. Look up near the top towards the webpage title. If you don't see it, go towards the bottom and look for the last published date. If you're having a struggle with this, please just come see me with your website because I know it can be a challenge. Now, the next piece you need to answer is if your source is up to date. This is where it gets a little complicated. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at your source and you're going to tell me, number one, is it up to date? So what that means is, let's say I'm working with a website and it's talking about how a bridge collapsed and killed people. And so I read in the website that 36 people were crushed by this bridge. What I need to do in order to see if it's up to date or not is I need to go on the internet and I need to find the same information somewhere else. And that's how I can kind of decide if it's up to date. There are books that were written in the 1930s that are up to date because the stuff in them has not changed. But there are websites that were written yesterday that are not up to date because the information on them has already changed. So it depends on your topic, it depends on the specific information. And explain to me, let's say your source isn't up to date, does it matter? So you might say, I'm using the basic information, I'm not using the numbers. So if you're reading a website and you say, okay, the number of people that it says died isn't up to date, but I'm just talking about why this issue has happened. Okay, so that's currency. Authority. So authority, if you remember from class, means how can we trust the person who has written it? So I want you to go through and talk to me about the different pieces. And here I give you some things to look for. So first, talk to me about who is the author and why are they qualified to be your source expert. Remember, if you're using a source that does not have an author, you can use the organization that has put it together. Next, tell me if they use references on the source that you're doing. What this means is, in the website, does it list where they've borrowed information from? Does it tell you where they found their information? One good example of this is on Wikipedia. On Wikipedia, there's those little blue numbers that tell you where it came from. Then talk about, look at the author and tell us if they've published other things that are kind of on the same topics. So if I look at an author and I see, let's say I'm reading an article on Emirati women and I see that they've written like 3 books that were all about, the Gulf and, or maybe women in general, then they're a little bit more trustworthy. And then lastly, has your source been through the publishing process? What this means is, has someone checked this information before you saw it? This is where you're going to have to do some critical thinking. So sources like books, encyclopedias, journals, those all go through publishing process where we check them out. If you're using a website, you have to really think about it. Think about the organization. Do you think they really checked their information? Some websites will tell you who checked it. So it's one of those things you got to kind of see. Again, if you're confused on this piece, come and see me. It's better to get help than to lose points. Okay, last piece is bias. Remember doing the crab analysis. So bias is all about the information that you're using. Is it fact or is it someone giving you opinion or maybe twisted information? We talked about in class how Al Jazeera sometimes twists information so it's better for certain people. And then you're going to tell me why. Like, okay, I think this is biased. Why do you think it's biased? Or if you tell me something is not biased, you better explain why it's not biased. Really think about who is publishing it. What website is it on? One source that we looked at for one of the groups, it was about using animal skins. And we noticed that all of the websites we were finding, they were being written by like vegan groups and, animal rights groups. So of course they're biased. And then if your source is biased, you need to tell me why we're using it anyways. It's not wrong to use a biased source, but you need to kind of consider, it is biased, but what I'm trying to explain, I need to understand their viewpoint. And then this last piece, I want you to go ahead and skip for now. We're going to do this at a later point. The APA citation is an area where you're going to learn APA after spring break. And we're going to go ahead and insert this. It's how we record exactly where we've taken the information from. If you want, and this would be really good, go ahead at the end, enter in the title of your source, the author, the date, the URL, and any other important information. This is going to make it really easy when you go to do your citation. Okay, longer than I hoped, but that was how you're going to fill out the individual worksheet. Next class, we'll be submitting it. So I want you to go ahead, get these pieces together. I want you to turn them in before spring break so we can move forward.